Welcome to the Emotional Horsemanship Podcast. I am your host, Lockie Phillips, and I help deeply caring equestrians create emotionally balanced horses with science, empathy, and feel. This podcast is a safe place for anyone who desires a better future for horses and for the equestrian lifestyle. I hope that you will enjoy these solo and collaborative episodes where we enjoy a deep insight into our horses' worlds and ways in which we can make that better for them. If you love horses and are willing to do right by them, you're going to love this podcast. And I thank you for being here. My guest on the podcast today is Sheri Salata. Sheri Salata is an American author, speaker, and producer. She is the former executive producer of the Oprah Winfrey Show and former co-president of the Oprah Winfrey Network and Harpo Productions. She has written memoirs, produced television, produced some of the best thinkers in our world, and today is a freelance producer and transformation guide who leads women around the globe in creating limitless lives. Sheri has been named one of Fast Company's 100 most creative people in business, the Hollywood Reporter's Women in Entertainment Power 100, and a Feminist Press Power Award winner. Sheri creates transformational coursework that has been experienced by people all over the world, with membership platforms, courses, and outreach. I invited Sheri onto this podcast after I noticed that Sheri actually followed my Instagram page. I knew who Sheri was, and after initial confusion, I found out that she was a new horse owner. I thought a conversation about how she came to be a horsewoman, a new horsewoman no doubt, through her experienced lens, could yield a brilliant conversation that illuminated horses from a totally different light. Sheri did not disappoint. Sheri has a standing history of giving to animal and horse charities, and I loved hearing her compare horses to shamans. I hope you enjoy this conversation, and I'm so thankful for Sheri for joining us on the pod. Okay, Sheri Salata, thank you for joining me today.
So glad to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I usually start these episodes with a really big question. And I don't think this is going to overwhelm you. It tends to overwhelm people, but let me roll it at you. Sheri, who are you? What do you do? And how do you do it?
Yes. Who am I? Well, I'm a woman in the middle of life, plus a little bit, who's walking the path of transformation. And my work in the world now is inviting women to come along with me. And I do that with digital programs, with digital memberships, and, any opportunity I have to have the conversation that matters most to me, which is how do we raise our lives to a level of new expansion?
That was a really great elevator speech, by the way. I have a feeling that this isn't your first rodeo, Sheri.
It's not my first rodeo. I am. Listen, I'm not a super pro, but it is not my first rodeo. That's for sure.
Right. So that's what you're doing and how you're doing it. Mm-hmm. Could I encourage you to drill a little deeper with me when we answer the question, who are you?
Yeah. Well, I would say this. To my ever-growing delight, I can see that my journey is unfolding the answer to that very question day after day, month after month, year after year. But what I absolutely see for myself now is I am this spiritual being living this 3D life as Sheri Salata, and the universe is just dropping breadcrumbs right in front of me to my next great adventure. And in every one of those adventures, I find out a little bit more how magical this life experience is and how powerful I really am.
It sounds like you're an optimist.
Oh, yeah.
Have you always been an optimist?
Listen, I was not raised by optimists.
Uh-huh.
My parents would have called themselves realists. And, you know, it's from an old patriarchal training from a different time. I have learned, and I've learned that my core belief is optimism is a superpower. That it literally sets you up with so much more ease when you believe things are going to work out for you. When you believe this is supposed to be a magical experience, when you believe that miracles and synchronicities will cross your path, and that there's a divine feminine web design that is kind of matrixing it all.
So you were born in Georgia, but you were raised in Illinois. So you've got those southern roots, but then that good Midwestern, straight-talking kind of attitude in you. What was that like?
Well, my dad was in the Navy when I was born. So I was born in Georgia. I lived here for a couple months. And I'm back in Georgia now, which is crazy. And that, again, magic of the universe. And then we lived on Oahu in Hawaii for many years. We lived in my childhood. We lived in Washington, D.C. But both my parents were born in Waukegan, Illinois. And we ended up moving back there. And, you know, I pretty much grew up there.
So I'd like to just touch base on your Oprah chapter if we can, but there's so much more I'd love to discuss with you, in particular Horses for Mental Health and your horse Steve, and your book as well. I'd love to touch on the book, but it seems that your Oprah Winfrey experience was this crucible you kind of passed through in your life, which has now opened so many doors for you, both internally and externally. But you entered that world through an advertising agency at like an entry-level position and worked your way up. Just share what you would like to share about that for us, please.
Well, you know, I think let this be hopeful to anybody who's listening who is struggling to find their way. I got an entry-level job at the Oprah Show when I was 35. So I had toy store manager, 7-Eleven store manager, agency radio producer, ad agency TV producer. I had many secretary. That's what they were called then. I had a couple secretarial jobs, which I wasn't terribly great at. But I knew somehow there was something inside me that were like, nope, this isn't it. Nope, this isn't it. Nope, this isn't it. And when I got that miraculous opportunity to freelance at the Oprah Show, producing television commercials for them, for the show, I had enough experience of failure and disappointment and going down the wrong road real fast to know that I had just won the lottery. That this was the perfect intersection of service and creativity and sexy glamourism, you know, in terms of career, excitement, and passion. That everything came together for me, and that even though I was in the basement and had, the producers were the queens of the day, and I was in the basement and I didn't care. I loved it. I loved that opportunity so much, and I was in the basement for a long time. Just doing. I got some really great advice from a former boss. Just do what they hired you to do. Don't be worried about what your next step is. Just do what they hired you to do. And then over time, that worked out. So, but I love that word, crucible. Let me just say, no one has ever said that word to me. And the minute you said it, it was like, it's like this whole experience of you and me you're going to get something that you wanted. That is what I showed up for, to hear that word. That's what it was. It was a crucible.
A crucible. Because I can imagine entry-level basement at the Oprah Winfrey Show, right at its heyday, when it was kind of beginning to peak, really.
It was 10 years in. It was 10 years in. It was the number one show in the world.
I mean, oh my goodness. And then you're in like a basement position and you worked your way up. I can imagine the long work days. I mean, I've spent a bit of time in America over the past couple of years. All of you guys are exhausted. Can I just say that? You're all at some level of burnout. And I can imagine that though there would have been this hugely positive experience of glamour and opportunity and service, there would have been this flip side of just work, head down, bum up, wrote, repetition, work. There would have been a lot of that, and that would have been really tough.
Yeah. I mean, it was all that. It was all that for sure. And the upside was such an upside that you didn't really care about the other side. And for me, to have had all those other jobs and all that winding road, I didn't care. I knew, wow, a portal has just opened up. It is exciting and thrilling to be in the midst of this creative soup, doing this work. And I think over time for me, I just started to see, I would not say I would have been able to articulate it, but I guess intrinsically I could feel that a mission, an awakening was happening for me. An awakening spiritually, an awakening about, the quantum field, awakening about possibility. It was slowly happening. So, and one of the biggest benefits to working there was the feedback from the audience. It was like
immediate.
My life, you changed my life. You changed my life. You changed my life. I mean, you could not feel better about the work you were doing in the world.
So much positive reinforcement. You got picked at some point by Oprah, and you ended up becoming co-president of the OWN network, executive producer of the show. You were producing the season 25, the final season, and of co-president of Harpo Studios, or the president of Harpo Studios?
I was co-president. There was two of us.
In 2009.
So the big thing was the last 5 years running the Oprah show was like, whew.
Bananas.
Woo. Yeah. And then there were other projects going on. And, so I was asked to continue on in those capacities. Yeah.
But I'm really curious about the intimate moment when you knew that you were getting picked for something, when she, whoever it was responsible. Was it a letter? Was it a tap on the shoulder? Did someone grab you by the elbow? What was that moment like? Because I'm trying shocking. I'm trying to understand how I can help the people I work with to stay alive to opportunity in real time, because sometimes you realize it after the fact, or you anticipate it and then you kill it before it gets there. How to stay alive to it in real time. It's helpful with horses, very helpful with horses if you're working with horses, So what was that moment like when you got picked out of the basement and the upswing began for you?
What was that moment like? Well, out of the basement, that was really scary at first. To go from a support department to the show was scary. It was like, am I good enough? Can I do this? I mean, the moment when she asked me to be executive producer, that was my brains fell out of my head. That was so shocking. I wasn't the only one who was shocked. Everybody who thought they were going to be it was shocked too.
That would have been
shocking. It was really shocking. But to your point about how you can help people, I don't know what was stirring inside me, what was guiding me. I can't say I had it. I was like, oh yeah, I can see why this is happening. No, sir. But what I can see looking back is there was in me, I had developed a trust muscle.
Mm.
That miracle of getting the opportunity in advertising where I learned how to produce, and then the miracle of the entry level position, it gave me an insight into how of the secrets of manifestation, which is, wow, first of all, there is magic going on here. It's inexplicable. I mean, it made no sense. It made no sense how all that happened. It wasn't logical. I didn't have any special connections. I didn't grow up in Hollywood. I wasn't, to the manor born, as they say. I was a regular girl from Waukegan, Illinois. I went to the University of Iowa, Midwestern, salt of the earth, nothing real special going on, other than my desire to do big things.
Mm.
As those big moments were happening, there was, unbeknownst to me, I was developing a trust muscle, like, oh, this life is something. And now I say, because I'm in that same situation as you, is when I'm walking this path with other women who are saying, but when, but how, and my job is to help people develop that trust muscle.
Trust muscle. I'm also hearing a lot of similarities in your storyline to Oprah's life as well. Born in the South, worked her way up. She was fired at some point in her career. She had to work her butt off to get to where she is. And do you think maybe she saw something of herself in you?
I really, maybe there definitely was a lovely affinity, and for many years, and I mean, it was nice. It was a wonderful thing to be able to hold somebody in reverence, like I did with her for many years. That it was like her mission was easy to align with. Her mission for her viewers, it was easy to align with, because we were getting this feedback that we were landing that mission. So yeah, maybe something like that. We all had a lot of fun. There were hilarious moments. I mean, things, I can't remember a lot of it. It was whizzing by so fast. I wasn't going home at night logging my, the things that had happened. I was like, I was like just flopping into bed. So I don't remember a lot. Like something will come up and I'll be like, oh, that's right. That was funny. So, it's all the things we were, behind the NDA, behind the curtain, there was some crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
And so a lot of laughter, a lot of fun, and that feeling like pulling off the impossible on a regular basis, and how bonding that was for the company. It was good. It was fun.
I used to be a professional classical ballet dancer in Poland, and that was my previous career. And so when you speak about that, about behind the curtain and all the stuff that happens behind the scenes, in the audience, it all looks like beautiful scenography and everything. But if you stand behind the scenography, it's all just like cardboard with scribbles on it, and it's kind of dusty, and you'll see people kind of like moping about backstage, and they go on stage, put a smile on. And so the things that used to happen, as terrible as that career was, it was also incredible. And the camaraderie you developed with your fellow dancers was exceptional. Going through a crucible, you get put through the fire, and it's an intense experience, hugely intense experience. But speaking about staying alive to opportunity, you were up there, this intense experience in the crucible. And I always say to people, well, what do you do after you get everything you want? What do you do after you achieve all your dreams? Or what happens next? Once you're gotten to the greener grass on the other side, what do we just sit down now? No, something else happens, something shifts. Not many people know what that shift on the other side is like. When did you know it was time for your next chapter, time to move on past this experience?
Well, I think we've all experienced this to some degree. It's that you wanted something, you wanted something, you wanted something, you wanted something. You killed yourself to get it.
Right.
And for me, it was, a sustained period of not feeling fulfilled, not feeling happy. Like, what the world? After everything I've done, everything I've sacrificed, and everything I've achieved, I'm like,
Still don't feel it.
This isn't it. And so that, and the other thing that was happening is I was meeting these 25-year-olds who were women who were running their own businesses. And I was like, why is it that you have more freedom than I do?
Right.
And I got the big job. I've got the big job. So, everything reaches its apex. And the show had been over. OWN was doing well. That had been turned around. And there was another calling. There was another calling on my life, as Oprah would say. There was another calling. It began with a lot of healing work for me because, and I wrote about this in my memoir. It's like people would have plucked out an eyeball for that job and for those experiences. But the real healing for me was understanding that all that achieving, probably those patterns beginning back in grade school for me. Spelling bee, I want to win. Hey, I won the spelling bee. Yay. And honor roll and things like that. Somehow seeds were planted in me that achievement was worthiness, that it was the same thing. So when you have a little worthiness issue, which is many women do, raised by especially women who are in the middle of life or older, you were trained and raised by people who had no training, who probably didn't feel so worthy themselves. And so all of that is inherited, that unworthiness gene. And somehow I got it mixed up. So for 30 years, 40 years, I was confused. I thought achievement was worthiness. I thought it was the same thing. And so when I had achieved things that were certainly beyond my wildest dreams, beyond most people's wildest dreams, I was like, oh my God, I still don't feel worthy. Happening? What is happening? What is happening? And then really gently beginning to untangle that mess, that ball of string for myself, really unpacking that and looking at that and saying, you've been operating under a false assumption and you didn't have to do anything to be worthy. Now, I'd heard everybody say that. I'd heard Eckhart Tolle say that. I've heard Mary Williamson say that. I heard Oprah say that. I heard Deepak Chopra say that. I heard all the great teachers say that. But it didn't, for some reason, I didn't hear it. I was taking notes. I did not hear that. I did not hear that piece.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. Sorry to interrupt you, but I can't help but volley with you here. That doesn't surprise me, Sheri, because you're in the middle of this crucible. It's this fast-paced life. It's this intense experience. You're flopping on your bed at the end of the day. Wow. Can any human being, anyone, find their animal body enough to actually allow a knowing to become an understanding? See, this happens to me when I'm out on clinic tours, right? So I travel around, I do a clinic tour, I show up, and I tell all these things. I say all these things about horses, and people will nod their heads and understand. And then 2 minutes later, the thing I just explained is happening to them. And they shockingly say to me, but I said, we just explained it. Now you're feeling it.
Right.
So you don't know something until you've felt it. And so interesting because you've stood with all of the international thought leaders, all of them, listened to them in real time, shook their hand, produced them, but you had to feel it to know it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And once I could start untangling that, and it'd be like, you don't have to do anything. You're already that. You're already that. So then the healing has begun. The healing journey has begun. And what I can see for myself, That's going to be an ongoing journey till I take my last breath.
Mm.
But I don't have to wait to expand and raise my life to the level of expansion until all my healing is done.
Right.
It all can be happening at the same time, doing what's triggering me there? A little bit more healing work, then a knowing, I excavate a knowing, a gem drops in, I go, oh, there's some expansion. Then it's like, okay, if I understand that now, I'm going to now raise the practices of my life to meet that expansion. And yet then there's going to be some more stuff to heal. So it's a little bit of that dance. Heal, expand, rise. And that seems to be like, listen, I'm open to whatever the universe drops in front of me. That seems to be the dance I'm being taught.
Consider the phrase excavated knowing stolen. I'm going to steal that with and tag you as quoted. That's a great one. I really like that one. Excavated knowing, the mining for truth all the way through our layers.
I know, because we know it, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
The reason why we know we already knew it is because when someone says it, it goes, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. It wasn't too long ago. This happens to me all the time in various ways, but usually not like this. I kind of curate my Instagram feed, so I only see really positive, powerful people. I don't want to see any other nonsense. So I'm scrolling through and I see this quote. I wish I could attribute it to somebody. I can't find out who originated it. And the quote said, it was a graphic, "The magic you seek is in the work you're not doing."
Oh, right there. That one right there. That one right there.
Whoa. Oh my gosh. And talk about excavating some knowing. Yep. And that goes back to this. Talking about meditating isn't the same as meditating. Talking about doing this isn't the same as doing it.
Yep.
And talking about being with your horse is not the same as being in the arena.
Isn't that the truth? If you're ever worried about your humility or your ego getting out of check, go spend some time trying to get a horse to communicate with you. That will bring you right back down to earth. I think the actress Tilda Swinton, she calls it a depth charge, like when they would drop the charges into the ocean and then it would explode under the surface to know how deep down the water level is. She calls it a depth charge. When you hear something you already know, but now you're feeling it in knowing, purely animal body embodiment. It's a depth charge. And I don't know where she said that. I think it was in a random interview from that 1991 film Orlando, which it's my favorite film. I think she mentioned it there, and it stuck with me all the way through my 20s. I kept looking for depth charges all the way through. So this is a totally side question, and then I'm going to get on to the next one. Who was responsible for Super Soul Sunday? Because that stuff was the best stuff I think I ever saw come out of the Oprah machine.
There was a team. I mean, it's always Oprah. Oprah's always responsible for it. The naming of it was her assistant at the time. Was like, wow, what a great name. There was a team of wonderful producers, really talented producers who had worked on the Oprah show. And, not a hard thing to book when you have the opportunity to sit down with Oprah and have those good conversations.
I thought it was great. I think it was really like the coalescence of the show and the network all together. I thought it was really good. I still listen to some of them. So you wrote a book.
I did.
And you've been speaking a lot about optimism and staying alive to opportunity, but then you wrote a book called The Beautiful No and Other Tales of Trial, Transcendence, and Transformation. I think it's a beautiful paradox, and paradox is the ultimate truth, where you speak about opportunity and saying yes to things and picking up what the universe gives you. And then you write a book about no.
The Beautiful No. Here's what I love about The Beautiful No. So it's just, and I really thank you for giving me a chance to teach it. So The Beautiful No is each there's a each chapter in my memoir there's a gem. There's some gem that I've excavated for myself, some knowing, some learning. And the beautiful no is the story about how I got the job at the Oprah show. And I had left my ad agency. Well, let me say this. 2 years before that, I had applied to the Oprah show to be a promo producer. And I got a message back, I'm sorry, you're not what we're looking for, which I assumed that was the case because I have my worthiness issues. So I never would have applied again. Never, never, never. So I was freelancing as an agency producer. I was trying to at least get a job at a better agency, better clients, bigger brands. And a friend got me an interview at a big agency in Chicago, which has since gone out of business, but big agency, stalwart, famed agency. And so I met with the executive producer and I was down to my last dollar. I was going to have to go to my dad to borrow rent money. I was feeling not good because by then, what was I? I was like 35 and I still don't have my money figured out. I still don't have my career figured out. So in the interview, he practically hires me. He looks at my reel. He said, "You're exactly what I need. I'll make you a senior producer. I'll put you on the big brands, huge money, all the benefits." My head was spinning. And he goes, "Go home. I'll call you early next week." So I meet my friends at the local watering hole. We pop the champagne. We're celebrating. We're like crying, celebrating because we were all worried about me. And, the next week comes and he doesn't call.
Uh-oh.
And he doesn't call. And then he doesn't return my call.
Oh.
By the end of the week, I had gotten a form letter from the HR department saying, "Sorry, we're not hiring at this time." Devastated and scared. It was like, oh my God, what is going to become of me? And depressed as I've ever been, just laying on my couch, just going, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. And shortly thereafter, I must have left at the house to go get food or something. And I came home and on the answering machine was a message. "This is so-and-so from the Oprah Winfrey Show. We were cleaning out a closet.
Wow.
And found your resume. Will you come in and talk to us about freelancing here?" And of course, that's how it began. But it wasn't, I wish I could tell you I figured it out right away. But it was a while later, I thought, oh my God, if that guy, his name was Ed, he's gone to the other side. So thank you, Ed. If Ed had hired me, no way would I have quit.
Right.
Try freelancing at the Oprah show.
Right.
Once I had a salary and insurance, no way. No way. That's how insecure I was feeling. No way. And that's when I realized that was the most beautiful no I'd ever gotten in my life. And then I started to think, maybe all my no's are beautiful. Maybe the person who doesn't love you back, maybe that's a beautiful no. Maybe the job you didn't get. Maybe the path that didn't open up to you. Maybe the thing that you really wanted to happen that didn't happen. Maybe all those no's are beautiful no's. And if they are, what does that mean? It means that you're being guided. So if you can, we're human. So a no comes and I get them. I get no's. Oh. And I'm like, you take a day. You take a day and you feel bad and you feel sorry for yourself and you let that emotion blow, or you're mad or whatever. You let that blow through you. And then you remember the beautiful no and you say, okay, I'm excited to see where this is going. I'm gonna build my trust muscle here. I'm excited to see where this is going. And pretty soon I'm gonna see why I got that no. Why that no is so beautiful to me. That's a beautiful no, friend.
That has happened to me also. Not to totally digress, but there was a period of my life when I was traveling all over Europe auditioning for company after company after company after company. And it was right during the GFC crisis in Europe. So all the theaters had no money, because what do governments do as soon as they're under financial pressure? Take everything from the arts, right? So there was, 700 people showing up for one contract in small towns in Germany. And I was there, hoofing for it. And everywhere I went, 30, 40 auditions all across Europe. And then I found myself in Germany in a job I had been fired from. And when I got fired, I went into the artistic director's office and I had my Julia Roberts moment. I said, big mistake. I'm now going to go prove you wrong. And I got a call from the Polish National Ballet, and they said, we feel sorry for you, and not feel sorry for you. We want to have you here. So we don't have a contract for you, but we're going to make a contract for you. We called the directors of art in Poland, whatever, the government. We got more money. We asked for a budget to have you here. Now, it wasn't much of a budget because I was living on nothing, but it was an opportunity. And that was my foot in the door. It got me my permanent European residency card. And then one day I was dancing and I went, oh, I'm done. That's a no. And that feels beautiful now. And now I'm going to go do this thing with horses. By the way, horses, masters of the beautiful no. I say all the time, rejection is protection. Rejection is protection. When they're rejecting you from something, they are protecting you from something you can't handle, they shouldn't be doing, or you don't know how to do with them yet.
Yes. Oh, that's so good.
It's true. Horses are all Reiki masters. You've got your horse, Steve. Would you like to tell us how Steve came into your life?
Yes. Well, Steve is a magical steed.
By the way, not the name Steve for a horse. Can I just say that is just to have a human name. It's like Bob or like something like this. Steve. It's a fantastic name.
He is. Okay. He's so great. I'll probably start crying about him.
Let's take a break. Speaking of spiritual businesses and spiritual business mentoring, I consider myself a small business. You might think I'm not. You might think I'm something else. But when it comes down to it, this is my business. This is how I make a living. This is my full-time job. My full-time job for the last few years has been an extremely high-volume lesson operation. But my lessons were just conducted online rather than in person, mostly. If you'd like to come and join me and be at the forefront of learning about horses online in a most modern way and progressive way, in a way which frees you to choose exactly how you want to train your horse, you're no longer pursuant to the local professionals available. You can study with anyone, anywhere. I try to make this as easy as possible for you. I even have a 24/7 booking concierge in my administrator who will meet with you for free for up to 15 minutes, 20 minutes to help you troubleshoot your tech woes. If you'd like to come and join us, I'm really interested in trying to make learning as accessible as possible to you. And I've got so many things available for you to do that. The easiest way to do that is to go to emotionalhorsemanship.com and consider signing up for the Emotional Horsemanship Foundation online course. This foundation online course is step 1 of many steps that you might be invited or led to take if you wish to come and learn with me and with your horses. And now let's turn to my conversation with Sheri Salata. Is just to have a human name. It's like Bob or like something like this. Steve. It's a fantastic name.
He is. Okay. He's so great. I'll probably start crying about him. So I've never had a horse. Mm-hmm. I didn't grow up with horses. I think I had a pony ride when I was in 8th grade. Mm-hmm. So no horsemanship here.
Good.
A friend of mine who's Dr. Anna Kabecka, she's a big entrepreneur online. She and I had become friends through a woman's entrepreneurial group called the Unicorn Club. And she had left Georgia and moved to Texas because her daughter is a very accomplished barrel racer. Mm. So she and I were doing a podcast, and afterwards we were catching up, and she said, "What's going on with you?" I go, "Oh, I can't believe it. I'm moving to Georgia." And she's like, "What?" where are you moving? And I told her, she goes, oh, you can have a horse there. And I said, yeah, they have a stable. I could have a horse. I mean, I have 2 dogs. I'm not interested, not a rider. I'm not going to get a horse. And she goes, you should buy our horse. And I'm like, I'll think about that. Maybe. I'm like, are you nuts? I'm not buying a horse. And then she said, really, he's a real sweetheart. And something about how she was describing him, I go, send me a picture. Sent me a picture. All I could see was his nose, his eyes a little bit. I burst into tears. And I just sat there and I'm like, yeah, you're supposed to join my family. Okay. Well, here we go on this journey now.
Yeah.
And so I moved him from Texas to Georgia. And Steve became a part of my family. And so we're not even a year into this. We are August to now into this. I am madly
in love. Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. He's magic. He really is magic. And, our relationship, the first few weeks, I bought a little camp stool and I'd just go sit in his pasture and he'd just walk and he'd be looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just going to sit here. I might read a book. I might listen to music. I'm just going to be with you. And because I'm still not riding yet, I take companionship lessons and leadership lessons. But our friendship, our relationship is just deepening and deepening where, he runs for me when he sees me and he's sassy with me and we have lots of laughs and, it's amazing. It is otherworldly.
It is. The relationship that people have with their horses, in my experience, is different. I'm not going to say better. I'm going to say it's a different kind of intensity to the relationships with our spouses, with our dogs, with our cats, with our human friends. Humans and horses, we belong together. I mean, for 10,000 years, they've helped us fight our wars and build our civilization. Then Henry Ford invented the internal combustion engine, and suddenly horses are no longer a part of society. And for the last century, we've been trying to figure out what role do horses play in human society now. And I think they've built our external civilization. Now they're helping us build our internal civilization.
That's good.
Our internal civility, because for centuries and even now, horses are trained with some of the most egregious practices, which would be completely illegal to any other animal. Do you know, Sheri, that 2x4 trainers still exist? Have you heard of a 2x4 trainer? Let me just initiate you real quick. They blindfold the horse, tie them to a concrete post that they can't break, and beat them with a 2x4 until they lay down and give up struggling. These people still exist. I get business from the horses that come out of this environment.
Wow.
The brutality these animals are treated with, and yet they are like this with us. What you're experiencing, Sheri, if you don't mind me saying, you represent the new-aged horse owner that I am dedicated to serving, someone who doesn't necessarily have a horse background, or if they do, they're trying to disidentify with it as quickly as possible and trying to learn an entirely new way. Whether or not they ride, who cares? This is a family member. Relationship comes first. If you ride as an active relationship, fabulous. If you don't, who cares? It's so nice to have them anyway. We
Yes.
belong together. So I really am so grateful to hear your journey to this, because you represent a small part of this great awakening, this tidal wave of change that is occurring across the equestrian industry, because tens of thousands of owners are just like you. And in fact, owners just like you actually run the industry, because you are the client now. You pay everyone's bills, right? And yet trainers are still serving this agricultural fantasy, or this civilization fantasy, or this mechanical fantasy that...
Well, Lucky, we're all breaking from the old patriarchal training, which was brutal and not intuitive and not expansive, and which was about discipline and getting people to follow these rules instead of instead of flow and ease. So we're all breaking through that. One of the wonderful things for me is my barn manager, by the time I got here with my horse, not knowing what I was doing, and she's a wonderful woman, her dream was is to create programming and opportunities for people like me who didn't have a horse but could have the experience of healing and forming relationships. And I'm like, well, I'm a producer. I know how to do that.
Hello.
And
Yes.
now I have the opportunity to help her create this amazing, amazing place where even like my horse, Steve, that's part of his work. I asked him and he likes doing it. So when we do, like today, I'm speaking to you later today. We're doing a horse blessing and sound bath.
Oh, love it.
And Steve will be part of the blessing, where he'll give a gift and the people who come will receive a gift. He and his herd, he's in a herd of 3. But just experimenting and finding ways, how can we see? And it's easy for me because I don't have any preconceived notions.
Thank God.
I never was a stable or a barn person, so I don't know what that culture is.
Don't.
I know what's possible, though, when you have these pastures filled with shamans on sacred land,
right?
With people who want to expand their lives.
It's amazing. It's amazing. This work is amazing. The horse, the way they, I mean, I can speak for hours on it without stopping, but they are, all of them, Reiki masters, all of them. One example that comes to mind, at every single clinic I go to, a bunch of horses in an arena who don't know each other. And I'm working with one horse and one person, and the person feels an emotional shift. They're working through shame about their background with horses, for example. They forgive themselves. Their horse shakes, and the horse across the arena yawns to co-sign it. It happens in real time like this.
It's amazing.
It's the most phenomenal thing, and it happens all the time. I'll speak in English about something, and a horse will go and nod their head, and I say, right? And I'm like, that's not a coincidence, because it happens all the time. When you're congruent and in alignment, they understand us like we're speaking English with them. They really, really do when you're congruent and in alignment.
I so agree. Like I'm a little bit of a treat lady. Good. And when I'm out of treats and I'll just be like, I don't have any more. That's when he's like, darn it. He'll reach over, grab his blanket and fling it.
Yes.
Fling it up, and I'll start laughing.
Tantrum.
And then, he'll be like, darn it. And then we'll have this laugh time. I will be laughing. I'll be like, oh my God, you're being so sassy.
Yeah.
But he'll only now will he show me his sassy side. He was so I've got to be a good boy. I've got to be a good boy. We had to work through that. Why am I here? Where am I now? What was wrong? Did I do something wrong? We had to work through that. And I'm like, oh my God, I got no skills. Okay, let me just hold space with you. And me going through oh my gosh, I have a horse now. A horse is not a dog.
No.
And we had to go through that, all those feelings and that fear and that, unsettledness and then just settle into, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do anything. I'm just going to show up every day.
Surrender.
I will be the one. I will bring you in and I will feed you some stuff, and I will make sure you have your things, and I'll be out in the pasture filling the water. And, I'm paying so other people do this, but I'm looking for ways to be in connection with him. Not a writer. And we have our big 90-minute lesson every week, which has been so great, but it's like, after our lesson, he and I are like, woo, we did good. Yeah. Okay. But like, we're a team now.
Yeah.
Team now. It isn't, he doesn't have to please me.
See,
he has to decide.
a lot of horses don't know how to be in relationship with us as much as we don't know how to be in relationship with them, not because they're not gifted at it. They're exceptionally gifted at it. It's because they've been chewed up and spat out by the patriarchal machine. It's because they've been used all their life. I've got this ex-sport horse at home, Grand Prix, dressage trained, etc., gorgeous. And he's sort of coming into my sandbox. And for a while, I'd ride him and he would just be a total machine. And I'd go, okay, I can do that too. I can do all the things. All the things are thinging. Well done. Very good. And then one day, all the things are thinging. It's very good, Soreno. It's very good. And he's Andalusian and he's tall and he's white and he's, my big white horse. And then one day we're in the arena and he stops. And I swear to God, the voice in my head said, why? Why am I doing this? And I went, very good question. Now we can begin knowing each other. Now we can begin to know each other because you're finally not serving me. You're in communication. You're in rapport with me. So the feeling you're getting with Steve doing all of this stuff, just imagine what that feels like. And you're on their body like an avatar now. It's right. I've restructured my whole life around that feeling because it's so amazing. It's just amazing. Now,
I do look forward to it.
You've been supporting various animal causes and many, many sanctuaries. There's some environmental associations you co-partner with, Save the Elephants, American Wild Horse Campaign, etc. But now you've got Horses for Mental Health, which is raising awareness and funds for 80 nonprofits in 36 states, incorporating horses into personal growth and mental health programs. Love this. How can I help you? How can I help you?
Well, here's what happened. That was a yes. That was something I said yes to. Very talented Oprah show producer who follows me reached out and said, "Hey, I'm producing this campaign. Would you be interested? Send me the information." Read the information. Heck yes, I'll do that.
Yes.
I say yes to that. So I felt, I was honored to be asked, and I was happy to do it.
Beautiful.
And more of that. I mean, in my daily life, I'm working on building programming here where I live, which is so fantastic. And any opportunities that I have for animals, let me just say.
You're into it.
Yeah, that's the big change that's upon us. When we start to realize that we are earthlings together, that we don't own them. We are earthlings together. And, from our food supply to, the treatment of animals to research to all those things, there's going to come a moment in human history, maybe I'll be here for it, where we're going to look back and see that our treatment of animals was barbaric. And it's kind of like looking back now and looking back at human slavery. Barbaric.
It's the same thing. It's barbaric. The same thing. Yeah.
And so it will be the same thing at some point. So I just say this for myself. How can I continue to grow my own being and my own life practices so I'm on the leading edge of that expansion? Not perfect, but standing on the leading edge, like, what do I need to know to be on the leading edge of walking this earth in integrity and in love?
Yes. The work now, this is where the work is. The work is now in the animal body, our animal body, and with animals. A few weeks ago, I was in South Carolina and I'm doing a clinic and I have these exercises in empathy where I have people hold a piece of baling twine because you can get them everywhere. And I get them partnering up and I say, halter your horse. They go, what? I say, yes, one of you is a horse, one of you is a people. Now halter your horse. And they're all standing there with a rope around their neck. And I'm in the South on a plantation. The road opposite the clinic is called Cotton Gin Lane. And there was one woman of color at that clinic. And she looked at me and afterwards, she gave me the biggest hug. She says, what we're doing to horses is history repeating itself.
Yeah.
And this is what we need to bring to the surface and crack wide open. It's going to bust through egos. It's going to bust through generational patterns. It's going to bust through trauma. We've got to bust through it because the horses are screaming. They're screaming for it. It's the work that's got to be done. Sheri, I'm going to wrap up the pod now, but I like to wrap up the pod with these 3 little questions if I can. And I'm going to adjust them just very, very slightly. The first one is, I think it was Anna Wintour who said recently that one word she would like to have eliminated from fashion is the word journey. She's like, it's been done. Everyone's on a journey. It's over. The age of journeys, in her opinion, is kind of over. I'm more interested in the age of homecomings. What feels home to you? So what feels like home for you, Sheri, rather than a journey? Because if journey's only journey and never come home anywhere, it's not a journey, it's homelessness. That's intellectual displacement. So what feels like home to you, Sheri?
What feels like home to me now is loving where I'm at, who I am, who I'm with right now.
Not in the past and not in the future, right here, right now.
Right now. Both literally and metaphorically.
Right. Literally and metaphorically. I'm a bit of a nerd, so I translate that into a neuroendocrine profile. It means that you're found a way to live with a certain absence of dopamine hijacking your system, because dopamine is responsible for anything that's not here and now. It pulls you into the past and it pulls you into the future. And this is stressful. It can be positive, but it's stressful for the body. I'm hearing you say that you've found a way to live without being hijacked by dopamine, which in our current culture is no mean feat. No mean feat.
Right. How can I use that ability, that dopamine-like anticipation of the future to serve me, not to run me?
So you serve it. It doesn't serve, well.
It serves me. I don't serve it. So what that means is, and maybe it was this last physical move where I was like, yep, this is where I'm supposed to be. And I can feel the roots growing. I can feel all the things coming into place where I don't need anything more. This is great. I open my hands to the changes that will come, because they will. I open my hands to the delights, the dazzlement the universe will drop at my feet, and the details of that. But I celebrate in the now moment, where I'm at, who I am, who I'm with.
Love it.
Everything's in perfect order.
I love it. My second question is, and as a new horse owner, I am very interested in your take on this. There is a steaming pile of something in the metaphorical stable in the equestrian industry that we need to muck out. So it's an opportunity for us to just share a subject in and around horses, if you can. Something that you would like to muck out of this world, this horse world.
A little tiny taste. I told you I'm at a friendly barn. But a little tiny taste is there's a little hierarchy thing going on. There's a little better than thou hierarchy. I've been here a long time. I've done this for years. Dare I say, crusty.
Oh, yeah.
There's a little of that old patriarchal, been here, know better than anybody else, blah, 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 blah. crustiness. But I've just seen a little bit of that. And what I see as a new person, a person who is putting herself in that transformation conversation every day, how limiting that stance is. Like the only people who are going to inspire you to new thinking are going to be the people who have new things to say.
Mm-hmm.
You know it all and have heard it all, and it's always been done this way. You're just kind of brittle. You're just going to stay where you are. Mm-hmm.
It's a very brittle industry. That's great. I'll muck that out with you, Sheri. That's something I'm here to break wide open, because I come into the horse industry as a total outsider from a non-horsey family, from a dance industry. And I said recently, listen, I'm going to step back and let the women here support women towards the end of this clinic, because what the world does not need is another dude in a hat with a microphone shaking his finger at little ladies saying, this is how it's supposed to be done with that horse, right? That's what the world doesn't need. So yeah, I'm so on board with that, and not surprised at all that despite being around horses for a short period of time that you've picked up on that, because it's a big issue in the industry. Big issue. My last question, and I say this with a lot of reverence and grace for you taking this time out of your day to talk with me. And I'm going to broaden it more than around horses, because you've alluded to the fact that horses are part of what is a larger tide of change, because we know that there's a tide of change coming. If you're a horse person, we are right on the cusp of change. The Paris Olympics are right around the corner. It's going to be difficult to witness. If you're interested in ethics around horses, it's going to be difficult to witness the horse sport there. And so we're right on the cusp of change this time. And you're saying that this is part of a bigger change. So how are you contributing towards this tide of change? Or how do you define it?
Here's one thing I notice in myself, that I have to be really, my timing has to be impeccable when I step out beyond my own garden. Mm-hmm. I have to be so solid to take on more. Otherwise, I could watch CNN for a week and just not want to get out of bed. Mm-hmm. The vibrational climate that I've established, gone. My ability, to connect intuitively to the animals in my family, gone. My optimism for and my enthusiasm for what I can create in my own life, gone. So I am actively in support of a new paradigm shift with animals. And if I sit too long in the problem, I'm no longer a part of the solution. So, it's like, I watch the dodo and all the positive stories to keep me going. Mm-hmm. I can hold the energy of alignment for animals and humans and what that treatment looks like. If I sit in the swirl of, here's all the horrible, horrific, horrendous things, I lose my effectiveness. I know that about myself. So here's my garden. There are certain animals in my animal family in my garden, and I have to consistently challenge myself to be the most brilliant companion for each of them, because they all have their different needs. Then I have, the animal, the sanctuaries that I like to support. And and I go and meet the people. Like I was in Kenya last summer, sitting down with the people that save the elephants and the Sheldrick Elephant Orphanage, and That's exciting to me, what the work they're doing. Now, I could spend 2 weeks on the poaching problem, and then I wouldn't get out of bed. So same is true. I am new to the world of horses. I don't know why that is. I don't know why I was going to Africa to meet the big sentient beings when here there are these beautiful animals right here. And I didn't have to be a rider to form a relationship with one. I don't know why I didn't know that, but now I do. And so what comes next? What comes next for me in terms of horses, I think will be revealed. But you saw, I mean, for a year I was a board member for the American Wild Horse Campaign. That came about, that was before I had Steve. That came about because some guy who went to the University of Iowa saw my picture somewhere and reached out and said his wife was the head of that organization, and would I be interested in meeting her? So I donated a year of my life. I don't know anything about wild horses. And I'm like, let me learn and let me help. And now I have a horse and I'm in relationship with him. Now you and I are talking. Now you're talking about the Paris Olympics. It's going to continue to unfold.
Right.
I just need to be alert and ready for my opportunity.
Okay. Yeah, I'm hearing that. I'm hearing you say at a certain level, you've cast like fly fishing. You've cast a little thing into the water that says, if I can be part of the solution, universe, use me. I'm paying attention. Use me. If I can be part of this solution, use me. Beautiful. Well, Sheri Salata, thank you so much for joining me today.
I loved meeting you, Lockheed. Wonderful.
I loved meeting you too. I love meeting you too. Thank you so much. You've been listening to the Emotional Horsemanship Podcast. I am your host, Lockie Phillips, and that was my guest, Sheri Salata. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to leave a review of my podcast and to make sure that you like and follow every episode that comes out. If you'd like to learn more about Sheri Salata, you can go to sherisalata.com. And if you'd like to learn more about emotional horsemanship and my work, you can go to emotionalhorsemanship.com. I hope you'll consider joining us next time on the podcast. I'm so enjoying bringing this to you. Take care out there, and I'll see you next time.